Actually, thank you, everyone. My name is Ubaid. I'm from SDPI, and today I'm with Ms. Saleha Qureshi, the lead of Pakistan Industrial Decarbonization Program at SDPI, and sort of here to brief you a bit on what have been the some of the developments around Article 6 of the Paris Agreement at COP29 and what has been recently. We have been hearing the news of the developments that happened on the day one, and perhaps we'll also be discussing what it means to for Pakistan as well. So yeah, but before that, I think what I'm going to do is give you a bit of an updates on what is exactly some Article 6, what has been the recent developments, and what was basically limitations that we have been facing over the past few years, and what has actually happened at the first day of COP29, and some of the developments that happened afterwards. And then Saleha will be highlighting what it actually means, or this operationalization, particularly of Article 6.4, means for Pakistan. So yeah, thank you. So I think thank you, Saleha, for joining again. Just sort of to introduce a bit. Perhaps I can go first, and then you'll come from the perspective of Pakistan. So when we actually talk about the Article 6, it was actually a very key component of the Paris Agreement 2015, mainly for countries to uh, collaborate in reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, and especially establishing a system for carbon trading, which that can actually allow the nations to mobilize climate finance and meet their targets more cost effectively. So now, when we talk about the Article 6, there have been two very important components of it. One is the Article 6.2 that generally allows bilateral carbon trading between the countries, where each nation determines the terms of their emission reductions and trade carbon credits accordingly. But at the same time, there's also an Article 6.4 that sort of establishes a global centralized UN managed sort of a carbon market that allows countries and companies to host their to offset their emissions by purchasing carbon credits, generally from projects that reduce or remove the greenhouse gas emissions. And both of these articles are extremely central to the implementation of Paris Agreement. So now till date, I mean, basically, even at COP28, we heard a lot of news about, because we were expecting the operationalization, but a lot of challenges did come up, because the when we talk about the operationalization of Article 6, particularly a centralized UN-backed market mechanism, there has been a lot of issues concerning the transparency of what the carbon credit system would be, the integrity of the carbon credits being traded, and the potential of the what should we say negative social and environmental impacts, such as undermining the rights of the people and all that. So, I mean, even last time we also saw sort of this whole diplomacy going on between, or disagreements between, the US and UK as well. So that was actually, there were a lot of these major sticking points for, again, high quality carbon credits, and many of the people argued that the poorly regulated markets would not be as effective and could lead to the sale of very ineffective carbon credits, allowing that would allow definitely the polluting countries to offset their emission as well. So that have been some of the a lot of challenges that the operationalization was facing from this context. But finally, in COP29, Baku, we made it was sort of a significant turning point, as after almost a decade of these negotiations, the countries have actually reached an agreement on standards that would be required to bring the carbon markets, and Article 6.4 particularly. 6.2 there has been a lot of progress previously as well, but especially for Article 6, bringing Article 6.4 into action. So majorly, there have been two sort of standards that were approved. One was around the methodology for carbon projects, and this actually sort of outlines how carbon credits are developed and assessed, and sort of sets a criteria on how projects can be structured to ensure that they deliver these genuine emission reductions as well. And the second standard that was sort of approved was the requirements for the carbon removal projects. I mean, this standard focuses on projects that aim to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from atmosphere. I mean, it could be the restoration projects, the soil management initiatives, and a couple of more points as well. And these agreements are essential as, again, for the operation, just like we talked about on the operation of Paris Agreement. Uh, again, very critical part that allows the countries is and also the businesses to create emission reductions, and it has been actually being currently being hailed as one of the key developments of the by the COP presidency. But I think at the same time we also really need to sort of go a bit deep as well. We don't really, because even during the negotiations, when we see what different parties has been talking about, even the follow 2 days that actually happened, uh, a lot of controversial aspects are also sort of coming out. One is mainly on what was the sort of the whole negotiation project, because that is something that is being challenged by a lot of parties, that this the scrutiny or the negotiations between different governments that didn't actually really went through. So there's a lot of rigorous discussions around those as well, like how those were actually drafted. And but anyhow, the presidency and the people have sort of ensured that this is not sort of like the things written on the stone, and these standards can always be further discussed, further negotiated for the sort of any improvement that you need to sort of bring into this as well. And when we talk about how, I mean, even the private sector or industrial associations, they have been doing a lot of debates around it at the as the COP goes on, and they have again been two-sided views on this. Some experts sort of view the adoption as positive development, that and that it can provide a very solid foundation for carbon markets to build upon. But at the same time, there are other players as well who sort of have again expressed a lot of concerns about the lack of protections for, just like initially we talked about, the communities, and safeguards for exploitation, and ensuring the benefits of the carbon credit reach to actually need the people. One angle which SDPI is also focusing really. But just like you mentioned, that the next move should be to facilitate the flow of climate finance. This has been something we have been really patiently waiting for, especially the countries such as, I mean, Pakistan, that are sort of that does have a huge potential for this. So again, just perhaps coming to you with a few, perhaps the codes from the presidency was that the standards are not set in stone and can be revised and improved as necessary. So as we look ahead, definitely there have been some challenges, but at the same time, this would open a sort of a gate of opportunities for developing countries such as Pakistan to sort of again uh, enable their climate action, especially on the projects that have been. But I think this is where I'll come to you, Sarah, for again discussing what this operationalization means for Pakistan and what should be its significance going forward as well. Yeah. So this was perhaps all from my end, a bit of the updates, and yeah, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abad, for the kind introduction of the working going around for the carbon markets. And from Baku, we can say that this conference, the COP29, is focused on the climate finance. So for the countries who are developing, so that's a golden opportunity if we think as an economic case for the countries that they can generate, credits from this mechanism. So, for this purpose, I would highlight what the Article 6 is and how we actually address this project or this issue in Pakistan under SDPI and Denmark's progress. So, the Article 6 articulates that it's a trading mechanism where the countries can collectively, go for the climate action through some trading mechanism. This is sort of a buy and selling trading mechanism where countries can trade off their carbon credits. So it's a golden opportunity for the developing countries, especially for the Pakistan, where the economic situation or the financial situation is very disturbed. So this is an opportunity for the industries, for the countries, for the low developing countries, that they can pitch into the carbon markets mechanism. So it is also estimated that if this market works properly, or if this market is scalable, so it can produce $250 billion of saving up, by 2030. So it's a big hit for these countries. And also it's while we are signatory to the Paris Agreement, most of the countries who are actually in the COP, so this is an opportunity that they can reduce almost 5 gigatons of CO2 every year. So from this, carbon markets opportunity, the countries like Pakistan can create the jobs. Also, they can boost their technologies and also improve their energy access. Also, they can take part broaderly in the climate action as well. So, as Ubad mentioned, that there are a lot of progress globally on the carbon market. So, what we did in Pakistan, that we started working with started the project of with the name that unlocking the potential of carbon markets in Pakistan, because there is a lack of capacity and awareness among of the carbon markets in the local context of Pakistan. So keeping in the view that this is the current scenario that actually exists in Pakistan, people don't know the actual taxonomy or the technology of this market working. So we decided and we started this project with the Denmark, because we wanted to to learn from their best practices, that they're the front runners in the sustainable development in development, and also in the carbon trading as well. So one of the challenges we foresee in the capacity building program and in the overall workshops we did in last year was that the guidelines are still missing for the carbon markets in Pakistan. It's under the review process, but the official guidelines for the carbon trading, that how the project developers and how the whole cycle would actually work, is still missing. And also there is a lack of business case and incentives for the private sectors, if we are talking about them, that how they can actually trade in that. And it has been seen that the private sector is actually taking keen interest in Pakistan, that how the carbon markets would work, but due to lack of the guidelines and the trading system from the government side, so this mechanism is slowed down right now. And also there are a lot of opportunities for the industries, if we are talking about, because they are the backbone of the country like Pakistan. So there is a carbon border adjustment mechanism, which is a golden opportunity for the industries to, actually trade the carbon under different compliance mechanisms. So for this purpose, we did, 6 capacity building workshops with the private sectors, with the journalists, with social media influencers, also with the provincial setups. So it was a bit learning experience, and a lot of things come out from that project. That there is a increased demand from the private sector. The carbon markets would be part of their supply chains and export a mechanism like CBAM, but there's a lack of limited capacity that is actually exists in the development of the projects. Also, there is a disconnect in Pakistan between the key stakeholders, like when we're talking about the federal and the provincial ministries. So there's a disconnect between the federal, provincial, and also between the private sector. So that needs to be addressed if we wanted to actually pitch into the carbon markets. And also there's a misconception that around the pathways of socio-economic significance around the carbon markets, like the example of the delta in a blue carbon project in Karachi, that the community rights were not properly addressed. So that's why to actually address the community rights properly and to actually trade properly in the carbon markets, we are going to start the next phase of our carbon markets project with the with the title that we are actually addressing the equitable development along with the carbon markets. So this is how the countries like Pakistan and other countries, developing countries, can address the challenge and also look into the opportunity in their local context, that how carbon markets could be actually working. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really interesting. And with Pakistan almost about to perhaps give a brief introduction of their guidelines for trading in the carbon markets in a couple of days' time. Let's hope we do see something tangible. But fully agree with the point that the rules of the engagement and how private sector needs to be brought upon would be something that would still be under discussion for a long time. This is something that is going to be further discussed and might not be entirely covered under the guidelines we'll see initially coming on. And fully agree with the point that the private sector, how it sort of engages, how indices are going to counter that, it's really going to be important. But let's see how it sort of the discussion goes on in the next days of COP29, because there have been a lot of positives and negatives coming from the recent developments. Yeah, and fully understanding it means really, really important for country like Pakistan to, I mean, take Miss Average. So let's hope we see further developments coming around it. And yeah, thank you so much, Saleha. With this, I'll think perhaps once any of the few new developments happen, we'll hopefully touch back again. Thank you so much.